Two of the most iconic women in all of Game of Thrones are Cersei Lannister and Daenerys Targaryen. But if you compare these two queens, you'd be surprised who actually is superior.
By now, you all should know exactly who we're talking about. We have a lot of categories to go through to prove exactly why one of these women are superior to the other. But before we do, let us know in the comments what you guys think. Let us know why you think one of these women is better than the other.
All right, first category up, just track record as rulers. If you compare Dany's, little...
Some after-school special.
Yeah, after-school special of Dany's little journey over there compared to Cersei's masterclass of rising to the ranks within Westeros. If you compare them, I think, at least as rulers... I think you have to go with Cersei based on stability that Cersei was bringing, even if it wasn't going to maintain all that long. Dany's was just such a revolutionary force through it. I just don't feel like is a good method to areas where she was conquering at all.
Well, I agree. Dany has an unworkable political stance, and that is like what you say. It's a continuous revolution, right? It's never worked throughout history in real life, and it's not going to work in a fictional universe either. If somebody competent is writing like George R.R. Martin, it's just true. You enter a place with an established, functioning, let's say, society like Marine. It might not be morally correct. Yeah, they might be doing inhuman things there, but it is functioning. There's a set, established way this goes. Just because there's certain things you don't like about it, when you go in there and just disrupt it and destroy the foundations that it's built on, in the interim, it might look good from an outside perspective, especially as the person that quote-unquote liberated it, because you're going to be receiving a lot of praise from, in this situation, the majority of the population. But what happens when they find out that, the majority of the population, all of these grunts, they actually don't know a single thing about smithing or money collecting or currency trading, things like that. You need these people that are experienced, these legacy businessmen, to keep this economy afloat. It's just not going to work right. Cersei doesn't do anything like that. Cersei has a lot of political aspirations, and she definitely is devious about it too. She's not afraid to stab somebody in the back, but she's not willing to collapse a whole society. Maybe you could say that she is in terms of the show, Game of Thrones, but hey, that went off the rails. She's not the only character to be assassinated by the end of that. So when Winds of Winter comes out, we'll see exactly which direction she goes in. But as of now, no way. Cersei is holding the society of Westeros together pretty well considering the circumstances.
Yeah, as you were talking there, I was just thinking that Dany is like a girl that comes into a house and looks at it and goes, I really like this house, but it needs to be more open. There's an open concept that could be done here. So I'm just going to start knocking down these load-bearing walls, and then you just understand, why is my house falling in on itself? It's you didn't replace the thing that was fundamental to the design.
She can identify what an issue is, a glaring issue, but without any regard for why that issue might have been present in the first place or why it may be perceived as an issue. She's just willing to throw it out the window and then unwilling to deal with the consequences down the road, especially considering every time she does this, she only hangs out at any given place for, relatively a short amount of time and then bails. With Marine, it's a little bit different. She's been there for quite a while. But again, I feel like that's just kind of a scaled up thing. Marine is a huge, huge place compared to anywhere else she's done this to. So it makes sense she'd stay there for a little while longer. But again, she's definitely not going to be personally experiencing the repercussions of any of this, especially since every single person that surrounds her is just a huge simp. They won't even tell her the bad things that are happening if they were happening.
I will say, too, Dany always tries to burn them all as soon as she's getting in a hot spot. In the TV show, we see, for whatever reason, Dan and Dave want Cersei to do that as well. Things are getting a little too hot in the kitchen for Cersei. Let me just use wildfire and take them all out, Oopsies.
Yeah.
It's come on. Not believable.
Nope.
All right, Cersei takes the track record category. Okay, next category up. Nicknames. When it comes to Dany and Cersei, it's actually pretty funny. I was trying to look up. I'm like, does Cersei even have any nicknames or aliases she goes by?
Consistent ones? I don't know.
Really nothing. Dany has a laundry list. Stormborn, Mother of Dragons, The Unburnt, Breaker of Chains, and there's a bunch of other book-only nicknames. If I compare them, Dany does have more nicknames, better nicknames, but do you really need nicknames? I feel like it's kind of a try-hard thing now for Dany to have so many.
Part of the issue, too, is that Dany calls herself a lot of these nicknames. I'm not saying she is the originator of a lot of these nicknames. They probably are said by other people around her, but the fact that she'll pick it up from even I go to this village, I get a new nickname. Okay, I'll keep that one. I have this one from my brother. Okay, I'll keep that one. Jorah, my simp best friend, gave me this one. I'll keep that for a while. And then she compiles them all into this giant, long list, like a sentence to say her name, right? That is cringe. It's horrible. And the only reason why anybody puts up with it is because she has nuclear launch codes, dragons, that she can sick on anybody that would say, hey, Daenerys, do you ever think about changing your, it's pretty fucking dumb. Anybody that says that's going to die versus Cersei, She has nothing like that. She's Cersei Lannister. Her name alone strikes fear in the hearts of men. You know what I'm saying? You don't need all these additional things, all the theatrics. It's unnecessary.
Dany's definitely trying to pad her resume with all of these, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
What have I done? What have I done? I was born in a storm. I didn't burn up. I gave birth to dragons, kind of, and I broke chains. It's like, well, I mean, I guess you could just be called one of the, like, the Mother of Dragons did all these things. Why do you need so many titles for all these different events?
Stormborn.
You're basically telling me your life story. The Stormborn one is the most ridiculous one, too. You're literally born in a storm. That's what you get called. Daenerys Stormborn.
Yeah,
Is that
dude.
that impressive of a feat?
The Baratheon, the entire Baratheon family line called. They want their name back, like their rightful name. It's like, yeah, very impressive, Daenerys.
Exactly.
It's Cersei takes us with a clean sweep, I think. It's one thing if Daenerys had this one cool name, like, give an example, speaking of Baratheons. The Demon of the Trident? Are you shitting me?
Dude.
Are you shitting me?
I just slipped out of my seat.
I know. Based on feats alone, and he didn't call himself that. I've never heard him reference that, unless maybe there is an obscure line where he's like, oh, the Demon of the Trident, Ned. I was strong. You know, something like that. Maybe. But again,
that's
that's
just getting Ned going, though.
right. That's just reminiscing. It's getting his friend going. You know, we're talking about the past. We're bullshitting guys. It's nothing like something Daenerys would do. And Cersei doesn't have any of these qualities either. So.
Well, no one ever calls Robert that name when he's introduced somewhere. You know, it's
Right.
like, King Robert the First, Demon of the Triton, King of the Rhoynard, and the First Man, and the Last Man.
If the last men too? Okay.
Okay, let's go. Next category. Cersei's up 2-0, I believe, right now. What about lovers when it comes to the men they bring in, men and women, that Dany and Cersei bring into their bedroom? Who do you think's better in this category?
This might be the most obvious win for Cersei, I think. And I don't mean to just give all these to Cersei just because, oh, it was biased. No. This is legitimate, man. Think about who Cersei has sex with. And I guess we can talk about book and show, but first and foremost, Jaime Lannister, the best swordsman of the realm potentially, Prince Charming himself. He's got the luscious blonde hair. Women want him. Men want to be him.
You look like him.
You look like him. We've talked about this a lot. It's the only person that can measure up to how elevated and how perfect you yourself are. I mean, who can say that? Who can say that? Almost no one can say that.
Yeah, it's impressive that Cersei is able to trap him too, because in situations, Cersei is way more of the predator and Dany is way more of the victim in their relationships, right? With like Drogo and Jorah. Jon Snow is probably the most even-footed relationship. Dario is almost there, but I still feel like Dario knows more about what he's doing than Dany does.
All about the version of Dario.
Oh, here we go.
You knew this was coming. If this was original Dario with the Crimson Chin, Chad thing, Tarzan Dario, okay, well, maybe she gets a few points there. But no, it's disgusting, no-ass, skips leg day Dario with a little hipster beard going on. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. And he's just another simp, by the way, too. Please, can I come with you back to Westeros, Dany? I'll do anything. Can I ride with your Dothraki? And honestly, I don't know why she didn't bring him. He's like a pretty good warrior. Why wouldn't he be an asset? Instead, she keeps him there for some unknown reason.
Distraction.
Oh, yeah.
Distraction, I guess.
Dude, get your mind out of the gutter, Dany. Jesus Christ.
What about his daughter? Is that any negative on her?
I mean, I don't know anything positive about him. Do you?
No, but I don't know. Like, that's just another
notch in the belt.
Blotch on her record. Yeah. With Cersei, you know, she is with Jaime, Lancel, the Kettle Blacks. In the books, you know, we have a lot of the Kettle Blacks. Also, Tenna, Merryweather, whatever girl she brings into her room, and she, like, really kind of torments her a little bit. And Dany also has, like, some sexual stuff with women in the books, too. George just loves whenever nipples are on the board to make sure they're in your face the whole time.
Yep.
But, yeah, if you're clutching your pearls, Dany definitely has the better track record when it comes to men choices, her lovers, right? That, oh, yeah, Drogo, Jorah, really not Jorah, but like Jon Snow, Dario, they're all not related to her. And Cersei has two people she's related to, plus like his little tormenting woman in the bed.
Dude,
but
keep
like,
it in the
if
family,
you look at
bro.
it, unclutch your pearls and just look at it for what it is, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, objectively speaking. I mean, look, anybody watching in the audience, who would you rather have sex with? Would you rather have sex with Khal Drogo, Dario, the beta version, Jon Snow, little like 5'6", whatever he is, Kit Harington, you know, manlet Jon Snow, or would you rather have sex with the Giga Chad, beautiful but also brawny Jaime Lannister? Are you serious? And Lancel too. I mean, whatever. He's beautiful as well. Lancel's a nice little Lannister boy. There's nothing wrong with him. The Kettle Blacks, you know, who's to say? We don't get great descriptions of them. But if Cersei's picking it, Cersei is a dime. She is literally a specimen in Westeros. If she's choosing them, I have to assume that it's something of quality versus Dany, where, I mean, honestly, look at her perspective. She's either 17 or 14, depending on which continuity you want to go with. She'll basically take whatever she can get, I think, or at the very least, her entire perception of what makes an attractive man is going to be skewed.
Yeah, and if anyone that's clutching their pearls about Cersei in the situation that she's having some incestuous relationship, I'm sure those same people, they're also just shipping so hard Rhaenyra and Daemon within House of the Dragon.
Exactly.
I just love it.
Also, don't knock it till you try it.
Yeah, true. So we have 3 for Cersei right now. Moving on to the next topic, children. Now, Dany doesn't really have any children, per se. She had one child with Drogo that ended up being it's not a miscarriage, but it's just been like a dead on arrival, right?
Yeah,
The baby
womp
came
womp.
out disformed. But then she has 3 dragons. First question, do you consider her dragons as being the mother of dragons, her children?
In the same way that I think of single 40-year-old white women being cat moms or dog moms. Like, no, they're not. They're not her children. They're her pets. They are her pets. Absolutely not. She could say that she loves them like children all she wants to. She doesn't. As soon as she has a real child, she'll love that thing infinitely more. The dragons will be out the fucking window. It's unreasonable. No, she's not the mother of dragons. That is a colloquial. That is a metaphorical term. She's got no kids except for that one that, turned into like a mutated horse god thing thanks to the Thicket Witch of the East, cleaning up that tent.
Whenever that thing came out, it was just like right away looked at Dany and said, "Kill me."
Kill me.
Okay, but let's just assume, let's just hit our head really hard against the wall, sniff something to kill some IQ points here. Let's just assume that Dany's children are, or her dragons are considered her children here. Compare those to Cersei's 3 children, and how do they stack up?
Right, okay.
Do
Yeah.
you have the mental ability to do that, or do you need to hit your head up against the wall?
I took too big of a sniff like you told me. I took too big of one, man. I don't have any more. But
okay, cool.
No, I got it. Okay, her dragons, first of all 3 of them are constantly killing livestock and killing people and killing things they're not supposed to be killing just to eat. Which, you can write it off like, oh, they're just an animal. They don't know any better. No. These are her children we're talking about here, right? Aren't we going to judge them by the same standards you would judge regular people? They can't just go and murder other people's livestock and their livelihood just because, oops, sorry, my dragons had to eat because they're like 2,000 pounds. It's like, no, unacceptable. Versus Cersei's children. Listen, 2 out of 3 of those kids are great. Wouldn't hurt a fly. Like literally 10 out of 10 behavior on those children.
Yes.
And even Joffrey, I mean, listen, I think he's a pretty bad dude. Obviously, he has a lot of issues. He's like a sadist and whatnot, but at least a couple of the victims, I can't say I'm upset that they were his victims,
Yeah. If you look at the track record, I keep saying track record in this episode or this video, but, that's just the way I'm looking at it. If you look at Cersei's track record with her children, right, she bombs on the first exam and then kind of makes up with the last 2, right? So what would you consider that in school if you're just based off 3 exams? You bomb on one and you actually, do really well in the other 2? So it's like a B or C.
Yeah, it's like in certain classes where there's a midterm, a final, and then like a big project essay, right? That's how a lot of classes are in college. It's graded on 3 big things, and a lot of times the lowest one is dropped. That's how it goes.
Okay, cool. Lady Olenna dropped this from her exam. She dropped that exam off the total record, right, for us?
I think so.
So I think Cersei gets this not only because she actually raised 2 good children, but also the fact that Dany considers her dragons children, and that's very cringe. So
that's minus 1 point.
For sure. Yeah, goes for sure to Cersei. So next one up, character arc throughout the whole series. Who do you think had the better character arc?
I'm actually having trouble figuring out what exactly the arcs are for each one. So if we go by trials and tribulations, Dany did go through a decent amount in the early seasons, less so in the books, I would say, because she is married off to Khal Drogo right away. But unlike in the show where she's graped by Khal Drogo, she is successfully seduced by Khal Drogo in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns into a very consensual, loving relationship, super quickly, hyper speed. He does die, which is very unfortunate. And then she has to wander the desert a little bit, and it's a little bit of suffering there. But she quickly learns that, again, her dragons are just the key to success, and she continues to go and basically get ran through by every guy that she meets up until she becomes the Queen of Marine, or whatever you want to call her, a warlord. I don't really know what you'd call her at that point. But Cersei, on the other hand, she has like a less interesting life, but that's just a matter of circumstance. How do you quantify that? I know that she ends up getting arrested by the Faith Militant, which is probably like the biggest atrocity that we see on screen or in book that's happened to her. But a lot of those things that she's arrested for, I kind of call bullshit on them. For one, being crimes. Listen, the Targaryens were incestuous for hundreds of years, and the Faith looked the other way. Like, why are you getting on Cersei's ass all of a sudden?
Well, just I think it's just a crack within the system that they can exploit with Cersei, right? That's the only reason why they care. Well, they also care because they do have standards, but why enforce it now? It's like, okay, well, I have the power. We can take out one of the biggest political players within King's Landing. But with Cersei, like you said, I'm trying to look at like her arc, and I don't really think she has that much of an arc. It feels like it's very consistent of her motivation and what she wants and her desires. She doesn't ever sway, like thinking like, oh, maybe I was a bad mother. Joffrey was like the worst thing. Maybe I need a devout, like if we saw her change her ways and became is it Silent Sister, I think, that is the Sept, right? The ones that prepare the bodies. Mm. I think if they did something like that, that would be more understandable that she actually has a character arc, or that she did something other than just continue down the same path that she was going down. But I think...
But Dany's the same way, right?
Yeah, but I think Dany was like, I'm going to hold off on going to Westeros to fix this slave issue over here. I'm going to do this. I want to do that. And I think arc-wise, I think Dany actually has a better arc, but if you want to say just character consistency, that would be Cersei all the way. I don't know. I think the arc is for Dany. How much does Cersei really change from start to finish? And by the end of it, show-wise, Dany goes Mad Queen by the end of it, right?
Oh, yeah, show-wise. Right. Okay, yeah, show-wise, Dany has a complete, 180 character arc. So if you're just talking about the most movement for a character, it's definitely Dany. Whether or not that makes sense, if that's how we're judging this, in terms of change, yeah, she wins for sure. But I think that Cersei's character is a lot more interesting. And you're right, it doesn't move that much, but again, it's kind of a victim of circumstance kind of thing. She's always trapped, boxed in by various political rivals, even though she's super powerful herself, whether it be Varys or Littlefinger or Robert Baratheon himself or Tywin, her dad, or the Tyrells. She's constantly being boxed in and forced to do things she doesn't want to do, or even having, I think, whose decision was it Tywin's decision to send Marcella over to Dorne? Like, everything that she wants is being stifled, and it's just slowly making her crazier and crazier. And like you say, she never admits that maybe she did wrong in the past, but I almost feel like that would be, if that happened, it would be a telegraphed kind of thing, because she would just be getting worn down and beaten down, kind of just how naturally would happen, and she would just submit and become nothing. But instead, because she's such a strong character, she's doubling down and just getting more on the grind and crazy. And who knows what she's going to do next? I'm serious. Who knows? If she does something absolutely insane, people are going to want to say, oh, typical old Cersei, because everybody's so polluted by what she did in Game of Thrones. But no, in reality, if she does something crazy, it's going to be unprecedented in the book continuity. She's a schemer, sure, but we've never seen her actually do anything insane. Yeah, and it's hard, too, because the books aren't finished with George, and that's where the more interesting character arcs will happen with Cersei as well. Who do you want to say wins this, then? I'm willing to give it to Dany because she has nothing so far, but in reality, I don't know who actually would win. Let us know in the comments. Yeah, in POV chapters, we do get Cersei POVs later on in the series, so you actually get a little bit, get to dive into the head of her and understand her just a little bit more. So hopefully we'll get some of those in the Winds of Winter when that ever comes out, before or after the Craster video. You're right, exactly. Sworn swords, they're sworn protectors, they're kind of right-hand man. Maybe not advisor, but the person fighting next to them. This one I actually go to Dany as well. For me, I'm thinking. So who would you choose? Who do you think is? For Cersei? Who the sworn sword? Cersei. Sworn sword, so it's the Mountain or Jaime, whichever one you want to choose here. How about either or? Greg or Jaime? Both of those guys could fight circles around Dany's people. What, Barristan? Do you think Barristan? Fuck, I forgot about Barristan. Well, but he's an old man. I don't think so. We've had this conversation before. Dude. If you want to say, bring me the Mountain and the one-hand Jaime, and I'll make you some Swiss cheese. I forgot about the one-hand Jaime thing too. Shit. Okay. Yeah. Barristan completely destroys one-hand Jaime and probably outsmarts the Mountain, but gives him a math equation, outsmarts him. Classic Barristan move. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's a chance that Barristan couldn't defeat the Mountain because the Mountain, isn't he immune to damage now? That's kind of how it makes it seem. Unless you just straight up crush him or something, cut his head off.
He's immune to tail whips if Barristan has that in one of his move sets.
How do you know?
I don't know. We don't know. Dany doesn't let us look at her little Pokemon before they get thrown out there.
Okay, so it's all speculation. The tail whip might be super effective for all we know.
Yeah. He's just spamming tail whip. Holy shit.
I forgot about Barristan. If we were talking Dario or Jorah or any of the Dothraki, they get completely crushed by the Mountain or, I mean, obviously, two-handed Jaime, right? Okay, what if this is two-handed Jaime? Hypothetically, what if it's two-handed Jaime?
This is hard. Yeah, two-handed Jaime.
We've talked about Barristan. Barristan knows Jaime well, but I don't know if he knows him well enough to take the fight.
I love Barristan. I love him so much. I think two-handed Jaime is so good, though. Like, two-handed Jaime probably takes down Barristan. Because just Barristan's out of his prime. Barristan is prime? I don't know. But at this point...
Barristan is prime basically takes anybody except Arthur Dayne. But now... Elderly Barristan? I don't think so. I don't think he beats Jaime two-handed.
This reminds me of our best video, wasn't it? The what if Robert didn't die?
Oh, yeah.
And then we speculated that what if Jaime did a trial by combat, fought Barristan, maybe Jaime wins against Barristan, and then he has to fight now because that was for Cersei's life. Now he has to fight for his life for trial by combat, and then, fresh cut Robert Baratheon comes down dripping with all of the high T energy he has. And it's like, holy shit, Robert is gonna crush him.
90-inch shoulder span, dude. 90-inch chest. Holy shit.
Okay, so Sworn Sword, who do we choose here?
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about Barristan. Listen, with Barristan involved, I do think it's Barristan. But there is a chance that the Mountain could take him with this undead form. So I guess it's kind of up in the air. But my first instinct is definitely to go Dany because of Barristan.
Yeah, and also fuck Dan and Dave for making Barristan go out like a bitch like that in the alleyway. He's like, oh, there's just people around me.
It's disgusting. At least let him die to a Westerosi, not a Essos. What do you call him, Essos?
I don't know. Whatever's in Essos, I don't want a part of it.
Too spicy.
Yeah. All right, so then who is the best daddy?
It depends on how you rate the daddies, man.
That's true. That's why I'm asking you. How do you rate these daddy? The Mad King versus Tywin Lannister? Who had the better father? Especially growing up, this has to be Cersei. The Mad King did not, as much as I'm becoming a more Mad King defender, Tywin set up Cersei, Jaime, and Tyrion all for success. And they're not appreciative at all of how much work. He also was a single father for most of his life, too. Think about that, And the Mad King basically just set Dany up for failure for one. The Mad King's conceived this child with his sister, so immediately you're just asking for some trouble right there. And then on top of it, so late in life that, like, genetically, if Dany comes out with 2 working brain cells, he won the lottery.
Which she did not, by the way. But, dude, the Mad King, think about it like this. I understand Tywin's an actually good, intelligent dad who set his kids up for success, very, business-oriented father figure. But how entertaining would it be to be around the Mad King all the time? This dude is hilarious. Constantly with the conspiracies, the paranoia. His eyes are darting around every which direction. His fingernails are ungodly long. His hair hasn't been cut in forever. He probably smells horrible. Imagine you bring your friends around the Red Keep. It's like, guys, shh, he's sleeping. Just come in here and take a whiff. They go in there. Oh, it's disgusting. It fills the entire throne room. It's very entertaining. It's entertainment value. If you're a guy, anyway. I guess I don't know from the perspective of, a daughter. But if it was my dad, I'd feel really bad. But if this is my friend's dad, I'm going to love hanging around the Mad King a whole lot more than Tywin.
Do you remember when my dad had those pins in his feet?
Yes.
Yeah. And you guys loved coming by that thing, too. Look at this thing.
It's awesome. What's wrong with that? That's what I'm saying. If it's my friend's
then
your
your dad in the neck brace.
Yeah.
Dad, so. You know what? You're right. I'm trying.
See, you got to come around to the Mad King, at least for the friend's sake, right? If it's a cousin, I think cousins too. If my cousin's dad, so that's my relative, if it's my cousin's dad, I'm taking the Mad King all day, every day. It's not like he's going to burn you, burn them all. They're not talking about Targaryens.
I do appreciate the fun factor that the Mad King could bring to a social environment, but I just don't see how anything he did, fostered or promoted Dany in a positive light like Tywin did constantly for his sons and daughter.
It's true. He turned Rhaegar, the guy who had the potential to be a Chad, turned him into a cringe hipster musician, poet kind of figure.
How do you tolerate that?
I don't even know how you tolerate something like that, dude. Especially you know Tywin too. Like, you are aware of Tywin and you're aware of Jaime Lannister, who you tried to screw over by appointing him to the Kingsguard, and he turns out to still be a super success and renowned everywhere. Not that Rhaegar isn't renowned,
Yeah.
but he's the prince. Like, he's the son of the king. I would hope he'd be renowned. That's a shoo-in. That doesn't count.
Yeah, imagine the Mad King must feel thinking, I'm going to bring Jaime onto the Kingsguard to, in spite of Tywin, and then just thinking the whole time, dude, this is the best piece of jailbait I've ever seen. I have to keep it. I got to keep it in my pants this whole time. Jaime's just so good looking.
Oh, and he's so popular, too. The Mad King comes into the throne room or whatever. It's like, the King of the Andals, right in our first minute. It's like, hey, the King's back again. Jaime comes in there. I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm late, guys. I was out training. Like, hey, Jaime, Kingslayer. Oh, sorry, not yet. Not Kingslayer yet. But, dude, he's the life of the party. Mad King has to be so pissed.
That would be funny if Jaime had somehow the nickname Kingslayer, because he would just like make the Mad King laugh the whole time. It's like, dude, you're killing me.
Whoa, Kingslayer much?
So who wins here?
Oh, I think it's Cersei. It's got to be Cersei.
Yeah, Cersei.
she objectively the better dad, yeah.
You did a good defense of the Mad King there. And you know what? Honestly, we should do a video in defense of the Mad King, because
yeah, we'll do it eventually.
Not enough love. Okay, well, now we're talking about Jaime. Talk about brothers. You want to go V3 versus Jaime and Tyrion? Who of these two have the better siblings? Brothers. Just brother. Oh, I guess Dany also has, what am I thinking here? Dany also has Rhaegar, too. Yeah.
This is actually a tough one. I'm trying to get rid of all my biases here and stuff, because Rhaegar, he does have a lot of accomplishments in his life, and he very well could be successfully orchestrated the birth of the next Azor Ahai, as much as I want to deny that it is anybody but Stannis Baratheon, first of his name, King of the Andals, the runner on the first men. I think that this narrative of the show might make it Jon Snow, and if so, Rhaegar may have done this intentionally, orchestrated this whole thing. It's a pretty Chad move. Like, that's a pretty big dedication to the grind. I'm just saying it is.
That's assuming Bran or Bloodraven did not warg into one of their bodies to also ensure this would happen. Right?
That's true. Okay, but do you really think that? Why would they have warged into Rhaegar? They probably would be warging into Lyanna, if anything, right?
True. Okay, yeah, that's true. So then what's the skill on Rhaegar's part? Like, she just opens her legs. I'm sure Rhaegar's going to go in.
Yeah, that's true. So, okay, he's still a simp in this situation. Like, he's still just like a horn dog, like a coomer.
I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe that's true. Plus, that's all conjecture anyway. I shouldn't even say that, because that's the total theory that he is like trying to birth Azor Ahai and prevent the Long Night. That is not confirmed anywhere. So if we go by what we know for sure, I think I have to give it to Cersei, right? I mean, Jaime's an accomplished dude. He has a great, great, great character arc. Tyrion is super smart too. He also has a nice character arc. From what we've seen, the show kind of assassinated him, but we'll see what actually comes of that. What do you think? I mean, V3's a Chad, but
yeah, she really doesn't know her brother Rhaegar. I guess he's, he is way, really well accomplished, like you said. But Cersei hates Tyrion so much. I wonder how this plays within the equation of like, okay, her brothers, she hates one of them. Dany doesn't really hate Viserys by the end of it. Dany kind of understands in context what Viserys went through, and like, oh yeah, he definitely didn't have a great upbringing because he was kind of looking after me. I don't know if she does that much self-reflection to it, right? But she understands that he's kind of result of the circumstances he's in.
Well, sure, but understand that Viserys also didn't murder their mother when he was born. So, I mean...
Well, that's true. Well, yeah, that's true. So, I mean, the way they look at their brothers, Dany has a better view of her brothers than Cersei does. But if we just judge, like, hey, accomplishments versus accomplishments, what did V3 do? He didn't do much, but imagine if V3 didn't have Drogo standing in his way, how much more he would accomplish. Or the simp Jorah Mormont, poisoning the well in Dany's ear. Yeah, I think we have to go with Cersei here. Jaime and Tyrion, they're better characters. They're more accomplished. What did Rhaegar accomplish, It's like he's just the prince. Like, what else did he do?
He's like a good jouster or whatever, I guess. Like, yeah, who gives a shit? He could play the harp. He could play the lute, whatever it is. Just to your point about how Tyrion is hated by Cersei, right? Despite that fact, Tyrion still goes out of his way to protect her because they're still Lannisters, So it's like, if you're rating the brothers, Tyrion is a good brother to Cersei, basically to the point where he has no other choice but to kind of abandon ship, right? Like until the point where she actively tries to get him killed, he is a good brother to her. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And Jaime obviously is the same. Plus the two brothers are also super close. They love each other as well. So the whole sibling dynamic there is very complex, but very satisfying in several different ways, versus the Dany situation where it's unsatisfying because they're both dead, and one of them was stifled at every turn, talking about Viserys, and the other one we don't know anything about. So, yeah, it definitely goes to Cersei.
You get a lot of hate for this, and you bring it up more often than I do. For this next category, we're talking about hair and drip, and you constantly will talk about Cersei's lesbian haircut in later seasons. Is that
I hate that lesbian haircut.
I hate
yes,
it as well. You're the most vocal one for it. It's weird because if you just judged the drip and hairstyle of Cersei, she has the better look throughout like the first 5 seasons. And then it's just after she gets her head shaved by the Faith Milton, it's just kind of downhill from there for her. And Dany kind of stays consistent, like on the rise there. But I hate Cersei's later seasons looks, hair and style.
Absolutely. It goes completely off the rails. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. I understand shaving her head or whatever to like disrespect her for the thing, but it's like you have the choice now when you're back in the limelight. You don't have to live that way. You know, you don't have to be that way anymore. Don't own it. Don't be like, oh, I'm owning my scars. I'll wear it like a trophy. Like, what did she say? Like, I'll wear it like a badge of honor. Like to Robert.
Wear it in silence, otherwise I'll honor you again. It's so good.
But no, I hate that haircut. I don't even know if it's a lesbian haircut necessarily. It's just disgusting, whatever it is. I call it a lesbian haircut. If you can think of a better way to describe it, let us know in the comments. But if you're grading with that in consideration, let's say that all 8 seasons of Game of Thrones, where we visually see something on screen, are all weighted equally. Those last couple seasons absolutely tank her rating to like a C at best. Versus Dany, it's consistently pretty good looking. I kind of like the earlier seasons the best when it's not always kempt, just because it kind of shows the environment she's in as opposed to later on where it's just always like perfectly styled and it's just like, who's doing this? But that's the kind of thing in House of the Dragon too, right? Dany probably does win this.
Yeah, Cersei, like you said, when she comes back bald or at least has like shorter hair and she wants to, show strength. I don't know if she needs to show her hair, but what she should have done is had like a head cover like Lady Olenna, and she could have had that hammerhead looking square forehead. I think that would power, or at least show a lot more power and strength amongst people.
Yeah, like mega mind them, right? Like you don't know what she's got cooking under there. Like it's got to be important. Like Olenna, you look at her, the artificial height that it gives you alone is something to be said.
CerseiHeight.com.
Yeah, exactly. CerseiHeight.com, guys. Look it up. Let's not forget House of the Dragon Season 2. Not a great season, but what was... I think we all remember a certain episode where Rhaenyra was dressed up in a little nun outfit or whatever, including one of these headdresses similar to what we're talking about. Get Cersei in one of those bad boys. Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Rhaenyra looked good.
Yeah, I think it would look good. And the other thing, when we talk about drip, I don't like how everything just turned like dark colors in later seasons of Game of Thrones. Everything was dark and black. Even the Kingsguard's armor got switched later on to like match kind of Cersei's new crown and stuff. I hated that look. I don't know who was the costumes designer at that, but the mountain, seeing him through the mask there. Do you know what I'm talking about? It looks like a penis head. And anyone that styles themselves off of penises is disgusting to me.
Really? I was going to say it's kind of based, but that's all right.
Okay.
We can have a different opinion, I suppose. But everything got darker. The weirdest thing to me, too, was when all the Lannisters' hair actually got darker, too.
Yeah.
How weird is that? Like, why'd their hair get brown? It's like Thor in the MCU, right? Like, later on, it got short and dark. Like, I mean, it looks okay. It looks fine. Jaime looks good with that hair. Cersei looks... What a strange choice to do. I don't think that you can give her the drip award based on all this stuff. Earlier in Game of Thrones, like you say, she does look good, and she has a superior style to Dany. But eventually, you have to, the law of averages, man.
So I think it's clear that Cersei is the more superior queen in almost every aspect, but Dany squeaks a few by.
Oh, yeah. Cersei takes her to pound school.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and smash that like button.
Or not. We don't care.